Yeah, so this is just like a good opportunity to, get to know you.
Exactly, before the real thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you were a chef and a lawyer. I don't know if you practiced law, but it sounded like you
Yeah, I
did
practiced law
hospitality.
for a couple
Uh,
of years, 4 years.
what was that like?
Uh, Different world, you know. But I
Did you
think
enjoy it?
it also helps with, in the whole conference world and dealing with details and communications and, reading contracts and all that stuff. So, it plays a role.
Did you enjoy it?
Uh, Parts of it, you know,
What
but
what parts what parts of it did you like?
I like the analytical aspects, you know. I like, the whole mental, constructing arguments and plotting and strategy,
Yeah,
but it's also there could be monotonous times, but I always had a passion for food, so that's what led me
yeah,
to, culinary.
yeah. It's so funny how, like, I meet actually a lot of people that practice law or at least went to school to law. Maybe they took the bar, maybe they didn't, and then they sort of do something else. But there seems like there's a lot. My dad was actually, I mean, he passed away like many, many, many years ago. But he was an attorney
Yeah,
for a
people
while
love
and then
it.
stopped.
I always tell people it's one of those degrees that you may not, physically practice law in a law firm, but there's so many takeaways that you can apply to all these different fields. And, a lot of what
Yeah,
I do has the background of the legal aspects.
yeah. I think the cool thing that I like about the practice of law is, I mean, really the the main metric of success is how well can you construct an argument, because all
Yeah.
the information's there. So like it teaches you how to think. You have to think through the same exact, context or content through a different lens.
Yeah.
And
There's so much the mental, and then it's also the writing, and it all kind of,
oh yeah, the writing too.
constructing
Yeah,
these arguments. And yeah, it's picking up on details and things that you can catch and utilize to your advantage.
yeah. So, anyways, you bailed on that at some point, started cooking.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I always had a passion for food. This is pre, Food Network, all that stuff, watching shows on, PBS and even the beginning of the Food Network.
Do you remember the
Uh,
shows you watched?
yeah, like the beginning, like I forget David Rosengarten, shows like that back when there wasn't like so much programming.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and I remember taking culinary classes in high school, but, went the traditional route of college. And even in college, I did my demonstration speech on how to do creme brulee. And
What for what class was
for,
that?
we had to take a speech class and you had to do a demonstration speech. So I did
That's
creme brulee.
that's
Uh,
funny.
but yeah, even practicing, going to law school, it was one of those things that after practicing for a couple of years, I said, if I don't, give this a shot, it's something
Yeah.
that I'm going to regret. So at that point, went back and enrolled in Johnson and Wales in their Charlotte campus and
Oh,
started the
cool.
whole culinary path.
Nice. I went to JWU in Providence.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the same time, but uh, you
Yeah,
know.
mine was 2006 to 2007.
Oh, I was 99,
Yeah.
2000, something like that. So yeah, 99, 2000.
No,
So
great campus, great schools, enjoyed my
yep,
experience.
yep. So so you left law, went to culinary school, and then did you start cooking in Philly or?
Yeah, so I came back. I knew I wanted to do pasta, so I came back, wanted to work for Marc Vetri, came back. Uh, this was back in the day when people don't even remember, like you would write letters and hope to get a response,
Yep.
multiple letters.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually got a response that, they were opening up their second restaurant, Osteria. Did I have any interest in, coming up and staging for a day and seeing? So I came out, drove up from Charlotte,
Oh wow.
staged. A couple days later, got offered a position, so moved back to the area. I'm originally from Allentown, which is like an hour north of
Oh
Philly,
yeah. Yeah.
and took the job at Osteria, and then proceeded to work between Osteria and Vetri for the next 4 years.
Yeah. What was it like working for Mark?
Amazing. I mean, I wanted to learn pasta, and then it's kind of like I kind of Osteria, it was a bigger animal. It was new. So much was going on there. So they gave me that glimpse into like a bigger restaurant. But then going over to Vetri was like to go and do pasta there was like grad school for pasta because I went from, a bigger line at Osteria to Vetri is literally, and when I worked there, 4 cooks, 6 days a week. Like,
mm,
that's it. Like, your station is your station.
yep.
You make the pasta, you roll the pasta, you cook the pasta. Like, it's a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
ownership.
That's great, man. It's also not common. Like I remember even even great spots like Babbo. You have there's the dude in the back that's making all the pasta, and the
Yeah.
cooks are just glazing
So
it
yeah,
to order.
it had that ownership factor where it's like you know, you touched every element. So you had kind of more care because you saw, from cracking the eggs to the pasta to putting the pasta out, like you took pride in every step that it wasn't like, oh, somebody else is going to deal with this. Like, no, this is your baby and you're going to, watch it grow up and see it through the whole life cycle.
How did they break up? Like, did one person do extruded and one person do filled and one person like how did that work?
No, so when I worked at the pasta station there, you extruded, you rolled, you did
You just did everything.
everything. Yeah, you had your 6 baskets and prepping, and so yeah, it was a lot of work, but it's something that I wouldn't, take away because I learned so much.
Yeah, you still make pasta at home.
No. I think that's the thing with a lot of some chefs. It's just like you just you get home and you find your staples and your things that work, and
Yeah,
you know
yeah. My I have 2 kids. My son doesn't eat a lot of things, but if he makes the pasta, then he'll like eat it because he's playing with it.
yeah.
So I find that we make more fresh pasta at home just because at least he'll eat it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm single and I live by myself and no kids, so it's kind of like, well, there's no point in making these huge meals. And plus, Philly has a great food scene that I really, people that I worked with have restaurants, so I like to go out and support them, especially the way
Yeah,
they support with the conference.
yeah. Well, I'm going to be selfish today, and maybe we'll just jump into that, and
All right,
we'll
be
kind of jump around
selfish.
a bit. I'm taking my. Obviously we're going to the chef conference. Super stoked. I mean, so much stuff going on. We're going to talk a bunch about that. I haven't
Yeah.
been to Philly in I think like 2 decades,
Oh wow,
and
it's
um,
changed.
yeah. Well, I'm sure, and I travel a lot, and I promised my wife this time I was gonna. He said, "Hey, come along and bring the kids." So actually, the kids and my wife are coming.
Well, let
Yeah,
me know. Let me know what you're doing because there's family activities that being that Visit Philadelphia as a partner, if there's any way I can help with.
that's where I'm gonna be selfish. Is well, I mean, I mean, I think my wife has like 30.
Yeah, but
Apparently,
if
there's a
there's
lot of
any way
like.
that I can help, because Visit Philly always offers, if there's out of town guests who are coming with their families, or any ways that
Oh, that's
experiences
cool.
that they're
Oh,
looking
nice.
to gain from their time in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'd love that. Well, the first question: where do we eat?
With families, okay, so families. I mean, there's so much. How old are your kids?
They're young, so actually, you could probably just pretend whatever. I mean, my wife and I will probably do a date night, like one of the nights, and then we'll take the kids somewhere. But just generally,
Uh,
like, where do you like to eat in Philly?
there's so many good places. I mean, it's all kind of like time and frame. Like there's so many different pockets and neighborhoods between like Mexican cuisine, Vietnamese, fine dining, Center City. So you can find like kind of anything that you want. And it's also in an area that's manageable and getting around, which I think is a big bonus.
Uber's pretty prevalent there.
Yeah, very prevalent, very easy. Philadelphia is not it's not like you get in an Uber and it's like you need a 30-minute ride somewhere.
Yeah, that's
Like
cool.
15 minutes you can be where you need to be.
Well, I think we're gonna stay by. Is it University City? Is that like the
Yeah.
area? What it's called? Yeah.
But I mean, even if like University City is like not, and you'll see it when you get, it's like, it's not far off from Center City. Like it's
Yeah.
literally a jump over the river. So
What do
there's so
you? I
much.
mean, you know a lot about Philly now. What do you love most about the city?
I love there's, sometimes it gets a bad rap, but I think it's very friendly, walkable, historical, and there's so much going on in food in the city. There's an appreciation for the food scene.
Yeah, it's grown a lot.
Yeah. And there's, different areas and pockets have grown in the past, 5, 10 years. And a lot of it spurs development for chefs to come in and, transform neighborhoods and areas.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're super excited about that's opened up recently or that's changing?
There's nothing that really jumps out at me that's opened up recently, but I think a lot of the restaurants have taken their, step up. Friday, Saturday, Sundays stepped up. Polizzi continues to be a great, standard for Italian cuisine. Uh, all Michael Solomonov's restaurants, they all, shine and continue to, transform the food scene.
Yeah. Um, well, let's start talking about the conference because obviously
Yeah.
it's coming up soon. Because one thing I want to ask you is like how Philly impacts the like what how this conference runs. But let's get to that later. Because at first,
Yeah.
just like high level, why did you start this thing? Because it's been like 11 years now. I know what
Yeah.
you missed 1 year because of COVID, but like 11 years running. Like,
Yeah.
why did
So
you start
yeah.
this conference?
When I made the transition from culinary to education, there was a period where I was an adjunct professor at Drexel University's culinary program, teaching culinary, but also teaching like hospitality classes, like hospitality law. And
Oh, wow.
throughout that time, I could see that there was a big gap between industry and education, and that, you know, there was a change going on in the field that people in education didn't really kind of comprehend what was going on within the industry, but there's also a segment of the industry that was looking down upon education. And I thought there was a way to kind of combine them both and really kind of like surround students with the right perspective and really kind of bring everybody together in one setting to kind of educate, but also talk about the issues that were, extremely important in the field that needed, to be discussed. So that's, how it originally kicked off. And when it originally started, it was just a lot of Philly.
Yeah.
The majority of my participants were Philadelphia, but as conferences grow, I think the main benefit is meeting new people and introducing new people to your market and changing the dialogue and always having the dialogue evolve. So as it grew, it started to bring in more national and international people to the area. And I think that's kind of a great value that it brings to Philadelphia in that it brings in new voices and it allows people in our city to engage with national and international leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on, just kind of going back to that, the gap between education and the industry and education. What my brain is thinking is the industry, obviously there's like this adage of like, you don't need culinary school.
Yeah.
And then when you're in culinary school, like what is what are the biggest gaps, where, and I guess maybe we start with what does the industry get wrong about education? And obviously a lot of us went to culinary school. But what are those gaps that you feel like you were trying to close?
I think sometimes industry feels like going to education is a waste of time. But I think the growth and development that people go through school is going to be beneficial in the long run, especially when we talk about the leadership and managerial styles. So to really kind of develop those interpersonal skills and how to lead, I think you will learn within the right education institution, especially taking, business courses and leadership.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes industry needs to see
Yeah.
how the kitchens have changed, because a lot of professors, have their industry experience, but it may have been, decades ago. And the kitchen has totally changed. The whole dynamic, you know, way people dress, all this stuff, and I think having their perspective in place, you know, both sides can help each other out in fostering dialogue and creating a better environment for the future of our industry.
You know, it's so fun. Like I'm like my the wheels are spinning here because what's so interesting about culinary school, at least, for me, I didn't really learn a lot about business and leadership. I learned a lot of like really, really old techniques for, you know, um, uh, veal blanc, like blanca de veau or something like that, that I kind of had to unlearn and then learn again. And but you're right. There's like this huge opportunity of like the things that we don't learn that we should, especially as you start getting into kitchens, is yeah, leadership. How do you talk to people? How do you get them to, how do you understand them? How do you become a good leader and a good manager? And what are unit economics and what is an EBITDA? Like things like that. We don't learn any of that. Then you jump into a kitchen. It's almost like a a dynamic where the education is all of that, and then hey, go. We're going to connect you to these restaurants and come back, and we'll help you like synthesize a little bit of what you learned when you were when you were staging there.
And I think within the culinary education platform, like there are, underlining lessons of leadership and management in that you're all on the same level with your fellow students. So you can, work on those skills and interactions. But I think there's a better system that, when both sides are engaged to create the better end product. Like we're all looking for the future of our industry. We're all looking to grow it. And I don't think one side has the answer. I think both sides working together can create the answer to produce, a future of industry, a better worker, a more educated worker that's going to really help the industry grow in the future, especially in a time when chefs are complaining about the lack of, people in the workforce and the
Yeah,
engagement from the workers now. So bringing everybody together is going to help solve the problem.
yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Okay, cool. So that was sort of the impetus for the conference. It's now grown into a lot more than that. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's just I mean a bunch of really awesome panels, a bunch of chefs, and not just chefs, but food photographers, writers, stylists, everything, everybody involved with the hospitality industry. It's really cool. I actually, admittedly, this is really sad to say, I haven't been yet.
Well, you
But I'm going this year. I'm really excited, and I'm excited to keep going after this. But I'm curious to hear from you. What's the goal of everybody attending? What should they leave? What should they leave with?
I think when they come, it provides an environment for open dialogue and conversation. Nothing, I think, truly gets solved at the conference, but the conversations continue. And I think that's where the growth aspect is, in that you can continue to engage, you can continue to meet new people, network, build connections, and all this kind of continues to grow and continues past the conference ends, but the dialogues and the connections continue.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Do you have ways of like of how you sort of follow up on that? Like, hey, is everybody connecting? How's this network, going?
I don't have like structural, but you can see it when, even through social media where people, build collaborations. But I also hear it from participants when they return. They say, well, this is the conference where I can meet and engage other individuals. I can have conversations. I can grow. I can, they bring their sous chef next year. They bring head
Yeah,
chef because they see that there's a value for them to kind of engage in dialogue because there is ample time throughout the conference to have conversations.
yeah,
Our panels aren't a panel on the stage and nobody gets to ask questions. The format's set up that everybody can ask questions, everybody can engage, and these conversations continue in the breaks. I find it every year where like say the panel ends at 10:15, the next panel ends at 10:30. We're literally having to politely ask our panelists like, hey, can we take these conversations
yeah,
into the the break room because
Yeah.
we have another panel that's about to begin.
Yeah.
And I think that's the engagement, that's the enjoyment, because a lot of times with these chef events, it's requiring them to do food, whereas my conferences require them to, speak on what they love, their opinions, their thoughts, and on topics that they are really focused on.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the panels, I've been on a bunch of these panels. I've never moderated one, so this is actually the first time I moderated a panel at the chef conference. And I'm really excited. I'm also really excited, just serendipitously, like the panel that you put together on menu innovation is just I'm super passionate about the idea of like how does everybody iterate? How do they think about the idea of iteration and creation and just creating new menu items? And so I'm excited to sort of dig into that topic with some really incredible
Well, yeah,
chefs.
you have an all-star lineup of when you talk about like innovation and the background of these individuals. Ariel Johnson used to be the head of Noma Fermentation Lab. Rosio Sanchez used to be the pastry chef at Noma. Thomas Frabel, who's currently with Noma Projects, and then Mr. Lyon from London, being like this cocktail innovator. Like you have amazing voices that I think the moderating is going to be easy. It's like tossing, a ball out, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah, it's throwing,
they're all, excited and, I think even just talking to Ariel, she's like, I feel like I've had this conversation with these individuals so many different times that it hasn't been in front of public. And I think that's a good thing, especially
oh,
because
that's
you're going to
great.
have dynamics in the audience who are going to throw questions out.
Yeah, that's actually really good to know. I'm sorry, I'm actually making some notes here because um, that's really, I'm sure they have. Um, and what I think are the best sort of representations of panels or talks or any of these conversations are when they're just organic and this thing would have happened anyways, and you just happen
Yeah.
to create a medium around it, whether it's a panel or a podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
People are going to have an inside view of these conversations that normally are, conducted behind closed doors. Because especially when you think about the people in Noma and their background in creating menus, like they all have their different insights that are going to, shine in this panel.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I guess a question for you is, just, you could have 1,000 panels. You only have 4 days of a conference, once every 365 days of the year. How do you choose what panels to do?
That's the real tough part.
Yeah,
I mean, it's it's finding the topics that are important, finding the speakers that you want to have a voice within the conference, hoping that the topic and the speaker go together, hoping that the speaker's available, uh, narrowing it down to figuring out what's going to work, what panel the likelihood of creating it's going to happen, which panels do you just pun on for a future year.
hmm,
It's also in planning panels in July and August for something that's happening in April. You also have to leave a little buffer room for the something current to come up, a
yeah,
topic that should be discussed, and figuring out the right time frame to say like I'm done with these panels. Do I have time to mold it a little way? Do I have time to throw another speaker in?
yeah.
So
Do you
there's so
find
many
that
different.
this year, is there anything popping up where you're like, I got to get this into the conference?
Luckily, nothing has popped up for good or bad. It's always great when something pops up because then you have the opportunity to make something really hyper, current. But that then brings in another problem of like, okay, now how do I juggle the agenda to fit this in?
Yeah,
How do I find the room to get this speaker to have the speaker, arranging travel and hotel? The
yeah,
last minute for a current topic always adds another dimension as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, at a high level I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on this year. What should people expect from the conference?
I think they should expect, you know, the right engagement, the right conversations, and there's a level of authenticity to it where it's not just the people on the panels, it's the people in the audience. They play a role. I find that, the participants of the conference don't just do a panel and disappear.
Yeah.
They then find their way into the audience and ask
Do you
questions
do
and
you help
participate.
facilitate that? Because that's not always. There's oftentimes obviously panels where like you show up 2 minutes before, do the panel, and then you're gone 2 minutes after.
I don't put any, as I like to say throughout, and my team gets annoyed. Everything is an invitation and not an obligation.
Hmm.
I want people to come and attend everything and participate. I think the people who agree to participate, enjoy the conference. They enjoy the authenticity. They want to support their fellow chefs on their panels. They want to participate. And they also see that there's a value in the topics and the dialogue. So they're not just, they don't do their 45 minutes and say, see
Yeah.
you later, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
They're, and there's enough engagement. There's things going on. I think the food and beverage that we offer at the conference is top notch. So there's, I like to say it's like a circus atmosphere, in that nothing stops. It kicks off. There's 3 rooms running concurrently. There's break rooms. There's spaces where you can jump out and have continued conversations, but there's also, things going on in each room. And I think the individuals who participate enjoy that because it allows them to also connect with their panelists and other participants that they don't get to see, throughout their daily lives either.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like I love that the way you facilitate is creating a really good conference that they want to stay at. Um, I just anecdotally, everyone that I know that has gone has just said nothing but great things about just really enjoying it and just having a really unique experience. I mean, what I am curious. It is a shit ton of work to put these things on. I am, and look, you don't have to answer. I'm going to start. I want to ask a
Yeah.
little bit about the economics of this because I'm
Yeah.
just very curious. But before we get to that, like, I know it must be a ton of work, man. I'm sure like the whole time, all you're thinking about is every little detail. What's happening and making sure everything is going off without a hitch. But like, what are you like most excited about? And what do you like? What do you like? You must love doing this because you keep doing it. So what do you
Yeah.
what are you most excited about for this year? And then generally, like, what do you
Well,
love
it's
most
it's
about this
it's
thing?
it's a puzzle. It's putting together a puzzle that I hope all the pieces come together over those dates. Uh, it's also exciting in that there's people that I don't know, people that I haven't met, and the thrill of being able to bring them into a community and offer their voice and engagement to people. I come from the perspective, like, 15 years ago as a line cook in Philly, and I would have loved to engage with these individuals. And if I can bring these in, and maybe there's a line cook who's like, I'm not going to be able to, you know, see Tom Colicchio speak in a room that's going to have 50 to 75 people. You know what I mean? There's going to be that level of one-on-one authenticity. So if I can bring those people in and engage, and a lot of what I like to do is like I try to hold events in time frames that are available for young cooks.
Yeah,
So with the panels that you're participating on Friday, those are 9 to 12.
yeah,
A cook can come in, get educated, can learn, can have breakfast, and can go work their shift. And
it's awesome.
might have come away with the takeaway that they can bring to their kitchen, that they can have a discussion. And stuff like that I offer to restaurant groups at a discount because I want to engage the future of the industry. I want to engage these restaurants to have them, foster dialogue in the kitchen because I believe education is so worthwhile to the future of our industry. But, otherwise, like to have somebody like Alain Ducasse come and
Awesome.
like his memoirs gets released on Tuesday after the conference, but doing a pre-release,
Yeah, it's so cool. Can you talk a
event.
little about that, just so people know? Because
Yeah,
yeah, I only recently learned that was happening. I think it's on Saturday, right?
yeah, it's on Saturday morning, April 13th. It's, Elaine's going to be in conversation with Jeff Gordonier, who's,
Hmm.
a longstanding, well-respected food journalist. And Elaine has his memoirs coming out that Tuesday after, but he's going to do a event. I don't believe he's doing many other events in the States. We were just lucky enough to the dates to coincide and to have the opportunity to sit and listen to this legend. I mean, he has the second most amount of Michelin stars in the world. He alone has 21, which is crazy,
Insane. It's insane.
insane. And to have him in a room speaking of his career is nuts to begin
How did you
with.
make that? How did you just send him an email? How did that happen?
Just, it's one of those things where you continue to build a conference that opportunities kind of present themselves, and booksellers and book agents realize the value of being in front of the people in this conference and opening up to the community. And there's been, demonstrating it from having, Massimo Bottura to Mashama Bailey to David Zilber to having these high profile book events. And again, this book event is on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. A lot of these, you know, high profile book events with chefs are at night,
Yeah,
and the line cook's not getting off.
yeah. Unless you're on a brunch shift, but that's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. But it's at 10 o'clock to 11:30. Come
It's
in,
awesome.
have breakfast, get a book, get your book signed, and go about the
So
rest of
cool.
your day. So to have, by, easily one of the top five most influential chefs in the world to come and sit and chat. And it's also, these chats are done in a space that's intimate. I always like to think it's like the events around the conference are like seeing your favorite rock star at like a small club. There's an intimacy to it. Seeing Elaine Ducasse speak in a room that's going to hold 200 people is going to allow that,
Yeah,
opportunity and engagement
yeah.
that doesn't exist elsewhere.
So what's the venue?
The venue is the Study Hotel, which is, has a nice conference space, multiple rooms, but none of the rooms are so large that people get lost.
Yeah,
It's the type of room where there's engagement. It allows question and answering. It allows eye contact. And I think, the people who are speaking enjoy that intimacy. They enjoy the banter from, the people in the audience, in that sometimes the moderator is kind of plays referee,
yeah,
because conversations will go between a member of the audience and somebody in the panel, that the dialogue and the conversation is going to go in so many different directions.
yeah. That's another note for me. What do you look for as the moderator's job, and what should they make sure to look out for and
Well, I tried not to. There's a, a strategy to planning the panels, and trying to avoid the person who's going to be a wild card, the person who's going to hijack it. So that
oh
takes
yeah, does that
a
happen?
little. It's it has happened, but you try to recognize who's going to, in selecting these panels. You want the right individuals who are going to foster dialogue in an authentic, but not so much an argumentative fashion. You
Yeah,
want cordial discourse about the issues and the topics, and you don't want people getting angry at each other. And
yeah, yeah.
it's supposed to be a productive space for these conversations on tough issues.
Um, well, I think luckily the menu innovation isn't very controversial. So
You never know. You never know what's going to
that's
be
true.
controversial.
That's true. That's true. Maybe somebody's going to get really angry about sous vide or something. Um, but I imagine one of the key characteristics that's necessary is that the moderator should really care about the topic that they're that they're moderating.
Well, and I think that's an important point. I believe that it seems that in other conferences, you can tell who paid to be a moderator
Yeah.
and it becomes an infomercial
Yes.
versus somebody who cares about the industry and the topic and is willing to dive into it and it comes prepared.
Yeah. Well,
A
that's
lot of the
the other.
times I pick many of the other panels will have journalists as moderators because they know how to ask questions
Yeah.
and they know how to
Yeah.
follow up. And the same thing with having people who do podcasts, they know how to spur dialogue.
Yeah.
Having a celebrity chef may be noteworthy and great, but it doesn't mean that that person's qualified to run and keep a panel functioning for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I've seen those too as well. I think one of the things that bothers me the most is when like they clearly have no idea what the
Oh yeah.
topic is that they're
Or they don't even know who the speakers are.
yeah, or they haven't done any research to who
Yeah.
the people are.
Like they'll mispronounce their names or where they work or and it's just like this and like 5 minutes into it, you're like, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a million of these challenges, I'm sure, like launching one of these events, but you're getting closer to it, so they're a lot more in your face now. What are the biggest challenges that come up every year that you're like, man, this never goes away. This is so hard.
Travel, communication, because it's maintaining communication with so many different individuals. And I handle all the emails with town because I feel like that's my duty, my responsibility.
Hmm.
If they're going to donate their time to participate, the least I can do is answer their emails in a timely fashion and make sure that they have the best experience with the conference. So on a yearly basis, it's the hotel room block always becomes an issue, because a lot of these people are busy and they can't finalize their travel right away.
Yeah.
So making sure that room spaces are available. Uh, it's always last minute reservations at restaurants where I have to send out the bat signal and
Yeah.
get call in favors to see if I can get these people in different restaurants. Just little things like that. But after 10, 11 years, you start to know where the problems are going to be. So I kind of have a outline of what needs to be done. A rough sketch of what the conference is, and I can kind of paint within those
Yeah.
barriers.
Yeah. Um, so the economics. What are the economics like of an event like this? How do you um fund it? What is the I you know is this does this become a moneymaker, or is it more of a thing that can kind of fulfill itself to keep doing it year after year?
Well, I think it becomes what, you know, it's a job like any other job. It's not that you throw together a conference and over a weekend. It's
Well, yeah.
it's planning that people sometimes fail to recognize that it is a job. It requires so much work. Economics. It's like I'm looking at a hotel room block that I have 75 people.
Hmm.
You know, that's a hotel bill that's going to be paid for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you also pay for the travel for all the guests. And my conference isn't one where you're speaking on, say you're speaking on Monday, say, yeah, you can arrive on Sunday. Every participant, no matter when you're speaking, can arrive on Friday.
Yeah. So you got 4 days of travel and hotel and whatever else for everyone, no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what. So they can, you know, enjoy their time in Philadelphia. And I
Yeah.
think that's the cost benefit analysis for them because at the end of the day, I'm really just asking for them
Yeah.
45 minutes to sit on a panel. I'm not
Yep.
asking for 1,000 burgers
Hmm.
and providing, the opportunities for the participants to engage and network, because a lot of these chefs don't get the opportunity to meet their colleagues in other areas. So it provides an opportunity that they can go out to dinner with their other chefs. Same thing with the journalists from different publications. This provides an opportunity for them to connect with their other journalists. And it becomes an opportunity that on a yearly basis, they know they can all get together and, break bread and discuss their fields. So conversations are happening outside these, panels that are, beneficial. Networking is happening at, various participant and VIP functions that allow for the continual growth and engagement within the industry.
Yeah. It sort of, takes on a life of its own. You're kind of creating a place and a medium, but then from there, all kinds of things can spur that you might not even plan for.
Yeah, and the economics, it's like, you have to hire a creative director. You have to hire a website person. You have to hire social media. You hire PR people.
You gotta book a
You
hotel,
hire, somebody
conference
to do
rooms.
the filming. You hire somebody to run the show. Like, these are all, finances that you need to take into account. And then there's an art to dealing with sponsors and sponsorships and finding the right sponsors. There's money out there that might be easier to get, but I think there's an authenticity to the sponsors that I choose to deal with, because I feel like the people in, the segment of the industry, the participants, are using those sponsors.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
not
yeah.
finding like this mass produced corporate thing that doesn't reflect the nature of my participants. They might be able
Yeah.
to write a larger check, but it devalues the brand and the authenticity around the conference.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a lot easier to get a check from MasterCard probably than than a bunch of smaller ones like us. And I'll say for myself independently of like the fact that I'm just super stoked about this conference as a chef and as someone in the industry that loves all the things that we do. Also really grateful with my company Meez to be able to sponsor this because it's exactly who we you know
Yeah,
serve
you
and
want,
work with every
and
day.
that's what like, and with sponsors, it's providing, the touch points that they come away saying like this was worth my investment.
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
tell people like this is my first year in the rebrand and doing it on my own, that like I'm a startup too. Like, I understand. Like, I'm not going to, gouge people,
yep,
and I'm going to offer. I want sponsors to walk away happy, saying like this was worth my investment. I want to invest next year, and I think a lot you see that I have the same sponsors year in and year out
yep.
because they see the value and they get, what they want out of it.
Yeah. And it's just it's very similar cultures and people. It's just also just great for, for
Yeah.
us and my company. Like a lot of the people on my team have been going to that conference for years anyways,
Yeah.
as chefs or restaurant owners. And so it's exciting. We actually, by the way, this is pretty cool. I had these made in time for your conference.
Wonderful.
These
Oh, nice.
scales. I have one for you as well. It's like a little pocket
Perfect.
scale.
No,
Um,
that'll be great. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, even for, as you said, like your clients are there. It
yeah,
provides not just participants and like the attendees, but it sponsors the ability to do all their networking, to see all the people that they want to see in one spot.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can go grab drinks with clients and you can have dinners and you can have coffee. And I don't feel like any of the I get this all the time. It's just like people tend to say like that the participants are so accessible
mm-hmm,
that none of them aren't approachable. They're all willing to have conversations. They all, I remember last year one person was like, I saw so and so speak at this conference and disappeared afterwards.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
saw this person at your conference. They spoke, and then I saw them in every other session.
yeah. I mean, Mike, that's huge, man. Because I see, I also see that all the time, and I think you're so right. It's also why it's so important to build, this authenticity and community into these types of conferences. Because if the panelist is leaving right after, there's a reason for that, right? Whereas if you've created an environment where like they we just like want to stay because this is great and all of our people are here and we want to hear these other
Yeah.
conversations and we want to go in the crowd and talk. Um, then just a testament to like I think it's how these need to be. So I'm excited. Um, what I didn't know that I was hoping you could share with everybody is, are there more tickets? I actually asked you about where it was because funny enough, I asked my assistant to book a hotel and like we couldn't find on the website where the
So
the
yes, so it's at the Study Hotel in West University City in Philadelphia. So there are tickets, limited amount of tickets for the expert day and Elaine Ducasse. Extremely limited for the panel day. I think last I checked, there was roughly 15 tickets left.
gotcha.
And
Isn't there
you know,
multiple panel days?
the main panel day is on Monday. And that's where there's
Gotcha.
multiple panels running concurrently. The
Oh,
other
okay.
days, the panels are just one offshoots. So there's
Gotcha.
versus the main panel day on Monday is kind of choose your own adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure out which room you want to go into. And, you know, it's always interesting because figuring out, because each room's a different size, you may think that you know what you have, your finger on the pulse of what people are interested in. And you try to judge the panels on, based on those sizes. But inevitably you get something wrong and the small room is completely packed and like
Yeah.
people are sitting on the floor. But that's the thing. It's the authenticity, it's the buy-in that within the
Um,
hospitality industry, there's a willingness like, sure, I'll sit on the floor. This isn't bad.
yeah. Yeah. Um, the it's the chef conference. What's the
Yeah.
website?
The chefconference.com.
Cool. Yeah, we can do like the little. I don't usually do this, but this is pretty timely because this episode's going to come out 2 days before the conference, so there might not
Oh,
be any
nice.
tickets left. Or it's coming out the Tuesday before
Okay.
the
Yeah.
conference.
So they'll
Um,
have, and then we have our opening night with two panels, one being on sobriety. That Sunday night, April 14th, one on sobriety in the restaurant industry, moderated by Andrew Zimmer, with Ashley
oh
Christensen,
wow, that's
Sean
cool.
Brock, Gregory Gourdet, and Michael Salmanoff.
Wow.
And then there's a fireside chat after that between Jeff Gordonier and Phil Rosenthal on the evolution of food TV.
That's awesome, man. I'm so, so excited for this. This is such a cool event.
Yeah, so there's so
Um,
many different things to go see, but it's also a great reason to come to Philadelphia to eat and drink and, make a full food weekend out of it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, you probably you're in the weeds right now of that you're a month away. And well, actually, sorry, just for everybody listening, you're 3 days away.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Not 28.
um, what 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 is this? What does this look like for you in 5, 10 years? Do you have a vision for what this thing is becoming?
I think it continues to it's a tough whether it grows and does smaller pop-ups in other areas, other cities
Mm-hmm.
is always an option. I'm a huge fan, and it might not be the best, financial decision, but I'm a huge fan of a smaller, intimate conference. I think that's what people get the most out of it versus if I had a large theater and I could sell so many seats, and yes, it's a better financial model, but I believe it detracts from the ultimate end product. So it's trying to find that balance between, the right amount of growth, a steady growth that doesn't, the last thing I would want is participants and sponsors and, people that come on a yearly basis to say, you know what, I'm going to
It's
pass this
changed.
year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when I'll realize that, well, it outgrew what its original,
Yeah.
message was. Like, if I continue to view it as the perspective of that young line cook and who that person wants to meet. But constructing this whole lineup is also talking to journalists. It's also talking to chefs and say, like, who do you want to see speak? Who's
Yeah.
doing something out there? Who do I not know? Like, who's doing something in this little niche area that I should highlight.
Yeah. I mean, that's the crazy thing is there's so many. Like, how do you even know which ones? Sometimes you know, I don't know how you feel about this, but like I feel bad. I'm like, there's the folks that we know because yes, you know David Silber, right? There's a book.
Yeah.
There's probably somebody doing some insane fermentation in Tulsa that you know, or somewhere, you know, and obviously that might be a little bit more innocuous. But there's
Oh
so
no.
many, you know, great, you know, talents in all parts of the industry, and it almost seems like I wonder how much you feel like a part of your job is also going and finding that,
No, I think
you know?
it's a huge part because I don't want to repeat. I don't want it to be like a repeat model of the same speakers, and I think there's an importance to identifying talent and giving them a voice and a platform on a national stage to get their message out. So a lot of what I do in talking to these journalists is I ask every journalist, I say, what are the topics that I should be focusing on? Who are speakers and people that I don't know about and that I should be looking at?
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
that becomes, it's not like an official committee, but it's a
Yeah.
committee of journalists that provide a lot of insight. They throw out topic ideas that are, things that I can't,
Yeah.
think of. And, without their help and support, I can't really construct this
Hmm.
model.
That seems like a lot of fun, by the way. Just, you know, ideating on what are all the things I don't know that we should be talking about.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also, I mean, this wonderful world of social media, the ability to engage with people, and
Yeah.
you never know who you send a direct message to, and you can get a response, or you send an email to, and some people get a response, some people don't, but it allows that accessibility and helps build it because I think sometimes when individuals see that their colleague or somebody that they really want to see speak, like it's funny when
Yeah.
you see chefs get starstruck by other chefs.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like I remember, in years past when I've had Harold McGee
Hmm.
and like literally, famous New York chefs coming out to me like,
Of
"Can you
course.
introduce me to him?
Yeah.
Like I need to meet this guy."
Yeah. I mean, look, and there's also I mean, look, as it's so impressive how you've continued this over so many years, but there's human nature is social proof is a thing, right? When you know you see someone else that's been there, like okay, I'd also love to be there. And to your point, yeah, you also just want to go and meet those folks. But when I asked you about you know what it's looking like in 5, 10 years, I'm curious if you could maybe just for a minute like step outside the normal realms of our worlds, and if you had like unlimited resources, unlimited team and time, you know, even if it was still in Philly. What would like the you know the next part of the conference be for you? Like, are there things that like you just can't do because there's just no way there's the resources or time to do it that you would love to
This
do?
year I'm getting a taste of having more external food elements. So I
What's that?
think having where it's being able to do these collaboration dinners using Philadelphia chefs and
Oh yeah,
national and international chefs
it's really smart.
in pop-ups in Philadelphia. So this is like a trial run. So with a, bigger budget, like comes with the ability of bringing in, international chefs to Philadelphia to
Mm-hmm.
participate in these dinners and offer experiences around the conference that aren't offered anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
love that.
instead of traveling, overseas to eat this person's food, you're going to eat it in
Yeah,
Philadelphia, and they're going to pair up with a great chef in my local area to give you an unparalleled experience that you're not going to see elsewhere in the United
yeah,
States or internationally. So doing, about 6 or 7 dinners this year around that, but that's a model that if this goes smoothly, to kind of make those connections. And I think those connections are beneficial to the people who attend the conference, but it's also beneficial to my local community to provide them with that engagement and
yeah.
network.
And that create that. is another one of those mediums that just creates more community and network out of what
Yeah.
you're building. Have you ever been to Festival in Lumiere in Montreal?
No.
It's a really cool festival, and they do a similar thing. So they'll fly in geese Savoy, and they fly in. I used to go there with Chef Greg Kuntz when I was working for him, and you would take over another kitchen and you work with that
Yeah.
kitchen, and there's this bond that happens, and they take you to a restaurant. And they're like, no, we're going to go to this place, and you don't even worry about that, right? Because there's like this connection, and we still talk, and there you it's such this organic kind of connection that that create, and usually you've never met these people before. It's a restaurant you don't know much about, and it's such a cool experience. It sounds like you're
And
building
it's
something
such a
similar here.
convivial environment amongst hospitality professionals that they're willing to open up the door and help you. Like,
Yeah,
you do a solid for them when they're in town, and they're going to reciprocate when you come to their area. So it's like
100%.
it's a camaraderie that I think really exists in our profession that may be lacking in other fields.
Yeah. Well, we also, I mean, look, we have and it's funny. I often like I'm so bummed because I'm somewhat removed now. Like I don't have my restaurants anymore. Um, but as chefs, like part of the reason why we can do this, we have these four walls. They're like, hey, come to my, come to my
Yeah,
home, basically, and then I'll come to yours when I come to your city, and then I'll go to your friend's home, which is another restaurant, and that's just a part of what we're able to give and receive. Is that is that connection in those restaurants?
and everybody enjoys sitting around, with food, and I think that's one of the benefits of that Philadelphia gets to experience is that there's a lot of conferences out there, not just in food, every field, but just the nature of my demographic. It's like you have these elite people in food and beverage that are coming to your city, and now they're going to explore. And
Yeah,
they're going to take time to eat at the right places and scout the right places versus, not to say it's like a law conference. They're not putting that time and effort into the selection of their food and beverage. So it's having that combination that trickles
yeah,
into the local environment and the economy.
yeah. That's how every city starts to build. Build. I mean, I remember going to Toronto 20 years ago, and it was not
Yeah,
an amazing food city. Now it's pretty incredible, and there's a bunch of conferences that popped up, and I think that's a big part of it. Is like you have these folks that start traveling there, and then they start a Blue opens there or a Momofuku, and then chefs travel there for conferences, and all of a sudden there's this transfer of knowledge, transfer of people and network, and that's how these cities start to become better and better every year. And so you're
yeah.
a big
It's
part of
it's
that for
it's
Philly.
having that engagement that's going to really foster growth and development within
Yeah,
communities.
yeah, I love that. Um, Quick question, just because I'm super curious, and then we can kind of we'll wrap it up here. Is
Yeah.
um, how do you like post mortem these things? Like, like when the conference is over? I'm sure you probably just go to sleep for a while, but after that, like, what's the post mortem on like how'd it go? What do we change? That kind of stuff.
I take feedback from key stakeholders on what their outside perspective is, but also in doing this for 10 years, I know what's right and wrong. It is my baby, and where things can be improved. uh Taking a step back and saying like, okay, this is even now in the planning phase, like there are things that I can do better next year. There are things that I literally had a phone call 5 minutes before here, with one of my members of my team, and being like, yeah, we've all made mistakes this year, but
Yeah,
especially this year being the first year of the rebrand and doing it on my own as the chef conference, it's establishing a playbook that's going to be, further grow and fine tuned over the years. But it's like
yeah,
anything else. I always relate it to, the restaurant industry, that it's like if the customer doesn't really see the problem, you know, did the problem really occur during, the back of the house and the service?
yeah.
Like, because it's always going to be, for lack of a better term, a shit show, and does that then make it in front of people? But if
Yeah.
people come away and saying this was great, and they don't, there, I'm always going to nitpick. There's always going to be things that could have been better. There's always going to be, a speaker that didn't deliver, or a moderator that didn't deliver, or, little things like that, that they're easy fix. But if I don't have customer service complaints at the end of the day, then I feel like I've done my job and all I can do is continue to get better.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think what I always take from things like this is, and it takes, I think, partly just getting older as well, because it's harder when you're younger, is you have to have a long-term view on these things. And also it's just helpful, I think, to look at any of your work as practice, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks when you're so far in a given, let's say in the year for the conference, we're like, I can't change this year, but that's okay. Like, I learned it, cool, index that, and next year it'll be better. I think
Yeah. It's
if
evolution. Like even
yeah,
this year, like
yeah,
I've incorporated new elements because that's the next step to
yep,
making it better.
yeah,
And there's always going to be like, hey, I still want to get this speaker. And it's sometimes it's like picking speakers that are good and talented, but you also know that they're connected to the next level.
mm-hmm,
So this speaker is going to springboard you to the next speaker.
yeah, yeah. And Mike, I apologize, I didn't actually ask you, um, the background between why you changed. It was the Philly Chef Conference, and now it's just the Chef Conference.
Yes.
What's the deal there?
So in the past years, and a lot of transitions within higher education, Drexel has decided to remove their hospitality program, which
Oh,
then
gotcha.
eventually eliminated my position. But it's always been, I remember even having these conversations leading up to this where people were like, you probably could just take this on your own and grow it. And sometimes being within a large university, there's so many levels of administration that hinders growth and development. So
Mm-hmm.
to have the opportunity to, take this on my own and grow it and truly own it has been, I think, transcends into the overall end
Yeah,
product in that there's no hierarchy that I have to go through in
yeah.
getting approval. It's kind of like, all right, let's do it
Holy
versus,
shit! I wish I had asked you this in the beginning. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. So, this was something in conjunction with Drexel University, and now you just sort of, because it was forced upon you, had to take it on your own.
yeah, it was one
And
of those things where it's like, things happen for a reason, the opportunity and, the thought was there to eventually kind of do it on my own. And,
hmm
the first year is always scarier, but it's also extremely liberating to be
yeah,
like, I can truly own this and,
yeah,
not have to worry about somebody above me who really doesn't understand the industry kind of
yeah.
questioning the nature of, my panelists. It's just
Wow.
like, you don't know who this person is. Like, trust me, these are the right people.
Um, Now I'm like double stoked.
Yeah, so it was, it was scary, but it was needed. I think any growth in any field is going to be difficult. It's going to be
Yeah,
scary, but you just have to opportunities present themselves, and you have to seize them.
yeah. Well, there's nothing like necessity to
Yeah,
breed innovation.
exactly. And I think I couldn't, having spent 10 years on it, I couldn't let it just fade away. And
Yeah,
I think there's a place in the restaurant industry that needs these conversations and needs this environment to really help us improve as an industry and grow moving forward.
yeah, yeah. Well, on behalf of the whole industry, especially given that you sort of had to take this all on your shoulders pretty quickly. Thank you for doing that and keeping it going. Um, and I'm excited for how it's going to keep growing.
No, I mean, it's also one of those things where it only succeeds because it has the faith and support of the industry as well. So it's like working in tandem with them to make sure that we're all benefiting and growing at the end of the day.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, this was a blast. I will see you in person in
Yeah.
But this is airing then, so I'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, we'll see each other in a couple days.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, man.